After 16-year-old Mikayla Miller was found dead last month, hanging from a tree along a trail near her home in Hopkinton, that according to WBZ, police there said they did not suspect foul play. A coroner's report has still not been released as of this taping, but today District Attorney Marian said her office was not ready to comment on the cause of Mikayla's death. But in the weeks since her body was found, Mikayla's family has pushed back, calling her death a murder and accusing authorities of trying to cover it up. A Facebook post attributed to Mikayla's mother reads in part, "My daughter was jumped by a group of kids on Saturday, April 17th, was then murdered hours later in Hopkinton, tied to a tree and left. The Hopkinton police did not log either the incident when my daughter was ambushed nor when she was found dead." Today, District Attorney Ryan laid out details of the encounter her mother referred to, including digital evidence she says proves that none of the teens involved in the altercation before Mikayla's death were in the area when she died. DA also strongly disagreed that police of her office have failed to look into the case, which she pledged to investigate completely and transparently. But the case has prompted a lot of outrage from activists online, some of whom were saying Mikayla, who is black and LGBTQ, was lynched. And this Thursday, several prominent local advocacy groups, including Violence in Boston, are holding a vigil to honor Mikayla's life and a rally to demand answers about her death. Now joined by the District Attorney, Marian, and Violence in Boston founder and CEO, Monica Cannon. Grant, Monica, and District Attorney, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
District Attorney, can I start with you? Your announcement was made just minutes before we are taping this discussion. I gave a very brief overview. Could you fill in a few blanks? What did you say that I did not?
Well, I think the most important thing, Jim, is there's been a lot of discussion about whether we have reached final conclusions in this case. The takeaway from this is that is completely and totally false. There have been no conclusions reached in this case. The most important question is what was the cause and the manner of Mikayla's death? That is a ruling made by the medical examiner. We haven't received that. We are awaiting that. The second piece is the allegations that are out there and that we have heard calls from about the fact that our office is either ignoring or truly even worse, covering up what happened here because Mikayla was black or because she was a member of the LGBTQIA community. I want to be completely clear. That is patently false. What
District
we do
Attorney,
know,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What we do know is a little bit of what you just showed. We do know that there was a physical altercation that took place on the evening of April 17th in a clubhouse or the common area of the apartment complex where Mikayla lived with her mother. We know that Mikayla was in that clubhouse. She was initially with two friends left. She was joined by 4 other teenagers. There was a physical altercation that took place. When the physical altercation had ended, the 5 of them stayed in that room for about 20 minutes or so. The 4 people that had come to the complex got in a car with another teenager and left. Mikayla went back to her home. Mikayla's mother called at 7:20, the Hopkinton police, and reported that her daughter had been, as you indicated, had been jumped. The police responded. They took a statement from Mikayla, documented that in a report, documented that they saw a bit of blood on her lip consistent with what she had told them. She told them she had been shoved and she had been punched. They then continued that investigation, traveling to the home of one of the females known to Mikayla who'd been there. They found the two females who'd been in the clubhouse. They talked to them, took statements, and then went back to the clubhouse to make observations of some damage that was consistent with what Mikayla had told them. The plan
Well, let me
was,
stop you there. District Attorney, for a second. Was a crime committed that night or no?
well, what we know is that there was a physical assault that Mikayla described.
Was it a crime? Was it a crime?
Assuming that we were in a position where we could still be talking to Mikayla about what had happened, yes, I would expect that would have been the case.
Well, I don't understand what that means. Meaning, if based on what you know, are these other people going to be charged with assault, battery, some crime based on what happened in that clubhouse?
As you know, Jim, obviously we always have to assess what is the evidence that we have with respect to, clearly Mikayla reported to the police that she had been punched and shoved. Tragically, Mikayla has passed away.
I understand, but just one more time, quickly, if I can. And Monica, I'll get you in a minute. Based on what you know, I know Mikayla's not here, was a crime committed on that scene?
Yes, based on what we know, yes.
Number two, if I may, District Attorney, quickly, what was the race of those who assaulted Mikayla?
My understanding is that those individuals, some were white and some were Latinx.
Monica, you have asserted in postings that Mikayla was murdered. That was your word. What's that based upon, Monica?
Well, Jim, let's first start with the narrative that DA Ryan just created. I think it's important to note that Mikayla left this life April 17th. For 12 days, the family did not hear from DA Ryan. And in regards to the information that she just gave you, we got that information a couple of hours ago prior to this interview. Up until that point, they have not heard from DA Ryan, which is part of the reason for the frustration is the lack of communication.
District Attorney, Monica didn't interrupt you. I'm sorry. Hold it a second. Excuse me, District Attorney. Monica didn't interrupt you. Let her finish, and as soon as she's done, you are absolutely free to respond. Monica, continue, if you will, please.
Thank you. The lack of communication has been the biggest issue in this case with the family. The lack of information being given to the mother has been the issue in this case. The reason,
but I want to get to your assertion.
Yes,
you're asserting, to it, Jim. Monica.
So, in regards to it being a murder, it's because the same day that these individuals jumped Mikayla at around 7 in the evening after her mom had called and reported that something happened, a few hours later, Mikayla leaves the house. Her location was shared via her Snapchat with these same individuals, and she ends up dead, right? Now, the frustration is this. If Mikayla was a white child, and this was 5 Black children that engaged in this activity, not only would they have been charged for an assault, but they would have had their faces all over social media, the media, and everywhere else. There's been a lack of transparency and accountability out of DA Ryan's office. The sergeant who was on this case out of her office, Sergeant Sean O'Brien, has been using bullying tactics with the neighbors. He even made a statement to this mother.
Monica, there's so many allegations. I'll get back to you in a second. If I can go down this list backwards, District Attorney, if I may, have you ruled out murder as a possible cause of death with Mikayla?
We have not reached a final conclusion here. And I apologize, Monica, for interrupting you. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I want to return to, I'm sorry.
How about the issue of communication with the family?
That's what I want to speak to. Beginning, I believe it was on that Sunday or perhaps Monday, victim witness advocates from my office have been in touch with Mikayla's mom. I've had conversation with Mikayla's mom. Mikayla's mom has a representative that we have been talking to on a constant, almost daily basis.
Starting when?
I have talked to that representative at least 2 or 3 times every day this week. So
but when was the first communication with the family, District Attorney? When was the first communication with the family?
I believe it was either Monday, the holiday. So that would be the police would have obviously were there on the 18th.
What date?
I believe The 18th. I believe the first contact from the advocate was the 19th.
District Attorney, it seems to me as a non-professional here, meaning me, that it's taken a hell of a long time to get the medical examiner's report here. Why so long, if I'm right?
Jim, you know that in every case, we wait for the results of the medical examiner. What they're doing, their testing, the lab results, all of what they are doing. There is absolutely nothing unusual about the fact that we are 2.5 weeks out and we don't have that yet. I understand. If this were my child, I would go to the ends of the earth for the answer. And I would have wanted the answer at the moment the police came to my door.
So you made a statement that these young people committed a crime. Why haven't they been charged? Why haven't they been brought to justice?
Because in every case, the fact that something has happened, we have to make an evaluation as to, do we have evidence to go forward?
But you just said a crime was committed when they assaulted her. They jumped her, and you know that. You interviewed 2 out of the 5 people that you described, and she was jumped. What happened to the other 4 individuals that got in that car? Have they been interviewed? Who are they?
All of those people have been interviewed on several occasions.
And still no charges.
But District Attorney, if I may, Monica, I want to get back to the question Monica and I have both asked. If you acknowledge that a crime has been committed, putting aside temporarily the cause of death and whether a crime was committed that led to the death, was she murdered? Was there some behavior that led to her death other than an act by herself? Why haven't those kids been charged? You did say you believe a crime had been committed there. Why isn't that crime been attended to?
Jim, as you know, when we charge somebody, we have to have evidence to go forward. We are continuing to investigate that. One type of evidence would be having a witness who can testify to what happened. We could potentially have some kind of video surveillance or something that shows what happens. Unfortunately, the fact that we have a statement from Mikayla as to what happened is not sufficient evidence to go forward.
So a victim statement saying I was beat and you believing that there's a crime is not enough to file charges against individuals that you acknowledge committed a crime? Everything about this case has been a lack of transparency and insinuates that something is being hidden or covered up. And for those reasons, we're demanding an independent investigation and it be taken out of DA Ryan's office, because we cannot trust in the fact that we're going to get all the answers necessary to what happened to Mikayla Miller.
District Attorney, if I may, I want to follow up on something that Monica said a minute ago, and I'm going to read from a Facebook posting from Mikayla's mother. Sergeant Sean O'Brien of the Millbury State Troopers Barracks warned me not to go to the media or else my daughter's, quote, sexuality will be exposed. Well, I did, and they will not cover up her murder. Please attend, meaning the event tomorrow, and share this post. What's your response to what Monica and Mikayla's mother have said about Sergeant O'Brien?
I have heard that and seen that, obviously. That is something that we are looking into as to what that conversation was. I want to go back, if I can, Jim, just for 1 second.
Sure.
Because to leave the idea that there's something that could go forward that isn't going forward is just wrong. Clearly, people can go to the police and give the police a police report. That doesn't change the need for there to be a physical witness who comes into court to testify.
You acknowledge that blood was on Mikayla.
1 second, Monica, if you would. Monica, 1 second. I'll let you respond just in a second. Finish, District Attorney, if you would, please.
One possibility would be if we could find somebody else who witnessed that. We can find video surveillance that would show that. We are continuing to investigate that. There are no conclusions here. We want what Mikayla deserves here and what her family deserves is a fulsome investigation that gets us to the right answer about what happened and tells us what ended her very promising life. That doesn't happen as quickly as people would like. I understand that. But
District Attorney, if I may, District Attorney, both WBZ and the mother of Mikayla have asserted that upon finding her dead, she was tied to a tree. Is that true? What were those circumstances?
We are continuing that piece of the investigation as to the cause, manner, and death, any injuries. That is something we await from the results of the medical examiner. We're not.
But was she
commenting
was
at this point.
with respectfully, she was either tied to a tree or she wasn't tied to a tree.
We're not
Pardon
commenting.
me? I'm sorry.
We're not commenting.
So, Monica, you said you want an independent investigation. Short of that, what do you want to see the district attorney do, Monica?
I want her to step down and let the FBI handle this case. I feel like her office has mishandled this case thus far. To acknowledge that blood was on Mikayla when the police interviewed her, a report was taken. She stated she was jumped. She gave names. They talked to the individuals. They looked at the camera. If I was jumped by 4 people, and a few of those people, which the DA did not mention, are males. It was males and females. And I had blood on me and made a report. There would be an arrest. There needs to be an arrest. She acknowledged the crime was committed. Still no one has been arrested. This is unprecedented. It does not happen. If the roles were reversed, these people would be arrested. The other thing is this, Jim. Mikayla was found tied to a tree, standing on her feet with a belt wrapped around her neck. Mikayla had on a black sweatsuit that does not require a belt. Everything about this case says that something is being hidden, and it does not feel good, Jim. And for those reasons, we want an independent investigation with the FBI, and we're going to do an independent autopsy. That violence in Boston will be covering.
District Attorney, 2 final things. Is what Monica just asserted true about what Mikayla was dressed in and the belt around her neck?
We're not commenting at this point. We are not yet. You know, I make 2 pledges. And this is what Mikayla deserves and what people are entitled to. The first is that we do a thorough and unbiased investigation. When we have finished that, you have my pledge. We will release every piece of information that we are able to release. We will put it on our website.
Means not saying that there is.
Monica, let her finish, please.
Your statement contradicts what you are saying right now.
District Attorney, continue, if you will, please.
We will make that available. I have learned that people are entitled to 2 things. They're entitled to have you do a complete, an unbiased, and a thorough investigation. And they are entitled to see the fruit of that work, which is why we released some pieces today, so that the public has confidence in the investigation that takes place. It is very simple to say we need to know something now, or why isn't this done? The question is, what we all should want is to get to the right answer.
District Attorney, when do you expect to get the medical examiner's report? What is, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, what has he or she said to you in terms of timetable?
We have attempted to get a specific timeline, and we have not been able to do that.
District Attorney Ryan, Monica Cannon-Grant, I appreciate your time. Thank you both. We will obviously stay tuned to this story. Thank you both.
Thank you.